think it's going to be more of a five-man game, and we really have to play a complete basketball game. I don't think one man can beat the Boston Celtics.
Actually, one man did almost beat the Boston Celtics, and his name was Michael Jeffrey Jordan. On April 20th, 1986, NBA fans watched Game 2 in the first round of the 1986 Eastern Conference Playoffs. The 30-52 Chicago Bulls, led by a 23-year-old Michael Jordan, versus the 67-15 Boston Celtics, led by Larry Bird and a number of other A-list stars. It cannot be overstated. This was one of the most incredible moments in the history of not just the NBA, but the history of sports. The Celtics, who were the defending champs, had all-stars Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, Danny Ainge, former league MVP Bill Walton, Dennis Johnson, and of course, Larry Joe Bird, who won that season's MVP and the final MVP in the season before. And the Bulls had, well, Michael Jordan. We all know MJ went for 63 points in the Boston Garden, including 54 points in regulation. But let me give you the opportunity to really look closely at what transpired that day. It'll blow you away, I promise. A 23-year-old Michael Jordan went into Boston against a team with the best defensive rating and the best net rating in the NBA. And I crunched all the numbers. Here's what he did: 12 for 22 on pull-up jumpers, 8 for 14 on drives to the basket, and 2 of 5 shots what are described as other shots. He shot 22 of 41 overall from the floor, with only 3 of those shots being uncontested. 38 of his 41 shots were shot with a hand in his face. It's amazing. Oh, and he attempted 21 free throws and hit 19 of them, with the 2 of the most important attempts coming at the end of regulation, that MJ of course converted to send the game into overtime. Larry Bird was nothing to sneeze at in that game either. Larry Legend had 36 points in the game, 12 rebounds, 8 assists, and hit 14 of his 27 shot attempts. He had big help too, getting 24 points from Danny Ainge, 27 from McHale, 15 from Dennis Johnson, 13 from Robert Parrish, and even 10 points from Bill Walton coming off the bench. And a quick fun fact, although MJ didn't have nearly the supporting cast as Bird had, he still somehow got 24 points from teammate Orlando Woolridge, who strangely played more minutes in the game than even Mike. But it was really all Mike.
Jordan in that case. Put it off the glass and hope that one of his freer players can get an offensive rebound. One of the things I was looking for early, Dick, is the tempo of the game by the Bulls.
Jordan. Chicago had a 12-point lead in the first half of the game against the Celtics Thursday. Jordan trying to fake Bird, can't do it. Hits the jumper, but Bird played pretty well defensively against Jordan there.
You got to hang on Jordan's shooting hand.
Michael Jordan has 8 points and is the game high score. Going baseline. Michael Jordan, the basket, good at a foul.
That was the Christmas massacre, but the troops are back.
Jordan against Dennis Johnson. Jordan setting a screen. Johnson trying to fight through it on a switch. Bird guards Jordan, and Jordan hits the jumper anyway. Long range. Jordan hits. Trying to double team, and Woolridge misses again. Here's Michael Jordan. Basket will be good and a foul, and 25 for Michael Jordan.
Celtics trying to Michael Jordan right now.
10 points in this period for Ainge, and what a great shot, and a basket and a foul. You talk about Bird's sheer determination at certain points of a game. Michael Jordan has those same qualities. This game, Jordan against Ainge. Jumper good with 16 seconds to go, 91-85. And a hard-fought victory for the Boston Celtics to take a 2-0 lead over Chicago in their best of 5. Our Miller Lite most valuable player of the game is Michael Jordan, with an all-time record 63 points in a single playoff game.
MJ had the ball for an incredible 45.5% of the time during the game. And just to put that in perspective, today's leader in usage rate in the NBA is Joel Embiid at 37.7%, followed by Luka Doncic and Giannis, all hovering around that 37% mark. MJ held the ball for nearly half the game. He saw double and triple teams, had 38 of his 41 shots contested, and he still scored 63 points. Larry Bird, who was arguably the most maniacal trash talker in NBA history, said things like, "He obviously was in a zone. He kept them in the game with a big basket after big basket. We couldn't stop him. We had about everyone on the team guarding him." And most famously of them all, I think he's God disguised as Michael Jordan. He is the most awesome player in the NBA. Today in Boston Garden, on national TV, in the playoffs, he put on one of the greatest shows of all time. I couldn't believe anybody could do that against the Boston Celtics. Let all these quotes sink in for a minute. These remarks came from a guy that never said good things about anyone, not even his own teammates. This is the same Larry Bird who won back-to-back regular season MVPs, was the defending NBA champion and reigning finals MVP, and the same guy who was at the time considered as probably the best player in the world. This is the same Larry Bird that told Reggie Miller, "I'm the best effing shooter in the league." This is the same Larry Bird who walked into the locker room earlier that season, just before the start of the 1986 three-point contest, and said to all the guys, "Who's coming in second?" and then proceeded to win the three-point contest for the third year in a row, while not even bothering to take off his warm-up jacket. I'm done, man, seriously. This guy was something else.
It's hard to believe a guy scored that many baskets and they lose, but I know we started Dennis Johnson out on him, and then we went with Danny Ainge, myself, which it was really easy then when I started guarding him. Then Bill Walton, and we was trying to run him to help all the time, but he had his outside shot going so well that he really didn't need to penetrate that much.
Got it! 63 for Jordan!
At 29 years old and in the heart of his prime, Larry Bird, the fiercest and most menacing player in sports, openly acknowledged a ringless and MVP-less Michael Jordan as the best athlete in the NBA today. Actually, I was wrong. None of this makes sense. It's wild. That would be like Kobe Bryant in the heart of his prime, or in his late 20s, calling LeBron the best player in the NBA at just 23 years old. No relentlessly fierce competitor would ever dare to let those words come out of his mouth. But think about it. That's just how special MJ was that day in 1986. Two things are true. That remains the best performance ever by a man in that building, and that building has seen a whole bunch of stars on even their own team. Bird, McHale, Pierce, Garnett, Parrish, you name them. And the best performance ever by a player under the age of 25. Oh, and that will most likely be the only time in NBA history that a man regarded by fans and players as the best player in the game will call a kid in his second season the best player / athlete in the world. In a league where we have Magic, Hakeem, Barkley, Dr. J, MJ, Moses Malone, Ewing, Larry Bird was the best player in the world, according to his peers. Never will we hear such praise again from the level of a player for a guy who hasn't won anything in the NBA. Not like that, nope. All MJ had on his resume was a whole bunch of points, no hardware yet. Larry said all that about him. Well, I guess that's three things that are true, so yeah. Larry Bird was cold-blooded and the face of the NBA for the better part of the 1980s, but MJ might have even eclipsed the great Larry Joe Bird as the most feared and the coldest-blooded player to ever play in the NBA. However, you choose to look at it. Those two are in a league of their own.
But it was an incredible playoff performance. I've never seen it before, and I had never seen it after.
If I said Michael Jordan, what would you say?
I think unbelievable. I mean, I can tell you some things that happened in the games against us. One time I turned, I jumped, and he still went. His knees almost hit me in the chin. And that's when I realized that this guy's pretty special for his jumping ability, but cat quick. He closed down a pass lane as fast as anybody ever seen, and just a phenomenal player.
He paid me the highest compliment, and I think that was very gratifying that I earned Larry Bird's respect.